Welcome back, everyone, to episode 26 of Show and Tell. This is just my small adventure highlighting the creators and the contributors to the Magic the Gathering community. Today, we are back in the Battle Bridge, and I'm thrilled to be joined with cosplayer, Magic ambassador, Capcom creator, Vault Dweller, Peachy Pop. Peachy, thank you so much for joining me this evening.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. What a read on.
What a read on, yeah.
Very good.
Let me tell you, when I was like doing some of the research, I was like, "Oh, Capcom creator." I'm very excited to talk to you about that because Capcom and I go way back in terms of I used to play Mega Man a lot, so Capcom.
Nice.
Yeah, so there'll be some stories. I'm gonna bury the lead right now, but like let me tell you, the Capcom stuff we'll have plenty to talk about then. So,
for sure.
But yeah, so usually I kind of joke. I always like to start at the beginning. So when did you what got you into Magic? Like when did you start playing Magic? What was the inspiration for that sort of journey?
Yeah, so I started my first encounter with Magic was in high school, which to date myself a bit was in like 2009, 2010-ish. And like I had like a friend. Yeah. When I was in high school in 1992.
Yeah.
But in like, the 2009, 2010-ish, I was in high school and I had like a friend who like I'd hang out with a lot, and he's like, "Hey, every Friday we meet up and we play Magic. You should come hang out with us." And I was like, "Yes, I would love to." And they all played Magic but didn't really explain the rules to me very well. Yeah. So I didn't really have a deck, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, it seems cool, but it's like really overwhelming. Maybe I'll learn it later. And then when I went to college in 2011-ish, kind of the same thing. Like my roommates at the time, different set of people played Magic, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to learn to play Magic? We're all gonna play Commander, or we're all gonna play Modern, or whatever."
Yeah.
So I slapped together some really jank budget decks because I did not have a lot of money in college.
Relatable.
But I slapped together like a really like $30 to $50 just like bulk commons Modern deck.
Okay.
And I took it to F&M and I figured it out from there. So yeah, I started playing by playing just Modern basically. I didn't play Standard pretty much ever.
Yeah.
I went straight to Modern, and then I played Modern from 2011 all the way up until around 2020, 2021-ish, so about 10 years.
Wow. That's a long...
in one format.
Yeah, that's kind of the point of Modern, right? Hope the keeping your kind of decks.
But when they said eternal, they meant it.
yes, they did. Yes, they did. Okay. Do you remember? Did you have a particular Modern? Like, what kind of mod do you remember? Like, what kind of decks do you like to play, or did you like to play in Modern?
Oh yeah, I had one pet deck. So my first deck in Modern, it was a mono green mana ramp deck.
Okay.
And it was make big Hydras, is make big mana, that kind of thing. Very simple and straightforward. And I liked that deck a lot. Until at F&M, like Modern F&M, one day I encountered Infect, and I was like, oh no. Oh boy. It's gonna be a whole thing. And I built Simic Infect in Modern really shortly after. Like a couple years into me playing Modern, I built that deck, and I played that deck relentlessly for years. It was my baby. I have like a bunch of the cards are signed. I have a gold Infect token. I have I have this tattoo from that time.
You are an Infect player, yes, through and through.
And then my God Nexus, I am forever. I love that deck so much. And it was only good for probably 2 or 3 of those years that I played Modern. And then after that, it was not a good deck in the meta, but I still played it. But yeah, those were kind of my two. It was like mono green, like big stompies, and then Infect, mostly the Simic version. But yeah, I played those two for quite a long time.
Very cool. Did you get into like pretty competitive playing, or was it just Modern was the format you played?
I got, in my later years of it, I got a little bit more competitive. I didn't really want to like build and buy out like the top tier decks. It was like I wanted to find decks that I loved a lot, and then I would go and like I played Simic Infect in several Modern GPs during years in which it was definitely not a viable option, but it was super fun. I played, I think it was 2015 Modern GP, I think it was Detroit, a couple other ones around that time. I played in a couple of 5Ks with it.
Oh wow.
Haven't done incredibly well with it, but it's still really good. Like, even if you're not like gunning for the top spot, it's still really good to have that experience of like playing a competitive setting at like Comp REL.
Yeah.
Just for the practice, even if you're not like, oh, totally gonna win.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's pretty cool. I've kind of joked on this. I've never played anything. I played one Friday Night Magic. It was, I'm gonna date myself now, when the first Ravnica block came out. I was like texting my friend who had played, some competitive stuff, like how do I draft? What's drafting?
Yeah.
And he's like,
drafting is scary to
Yeah.
start with.
and he keeps going. He just keeps bread. Bread was the thing at the time. I talk about bread all the time on this thing because it's the one thing I know about drafting that's not even really useful anymore, but kind of useful. And I can never even get through it. Bombs, removal, evasion. What was A?
Oh man, I can't remember what it is either.
A was.
I know the acronym you're thinking of.
Yeah, and then I think D was. I don't know.
It's not draw, is it? I don't know. It's been many years since I've seen that. Yeah.
I don't even know. It tells you how into draft. I am bad at drafting. I mean, I'm bad at Magic in general, but drafting in particular, not great.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. But I just remember it was, and I think it's almost in retrospect, it was kind of one of those like controversial things because it was, what do they call it? Where after everyone finished, all the rares got taken back, and you pick the basically whatever you opened, you didn't get to keep the rare. You had to like re-put it. What do they call that?
Like anti.
What's that?
Almost. I was saying not like anti.
No, there. It's like a thing that some stores do, where like at the end of the night, all the rares get turned in, and you draft the rares. Like the first, whoever goes first, like drafts the rare. And just remember, like everyone, like the first rare off the board was like the blue black shockland was like that was the highest, right? So I think typically when you draft, like you keep your cards, like those are yours.
Yeah. I've never done a draft like that before. Usually, everyone I've ever done has been the you draft it and that's your deck, and then you go home with it.
Yeah, I think that's typically how like most people prefer. I think that type of like rare drafting is after the fact is considered controversial now, which it's understandable because like you could my pack I could pull like a $50 rare, but then like I don't get to keep it. I have if I don't whatever. But
I had in 20. I want to say it was about 2015ish. My LGS had a chaos brown bag draft. Oh. So it was a pot of 8, and everybody had like 3 randomized packs, and a bunch of people had like conspiracy packs, and people had like unglued packs and that kind of thing.
Yeah. But
2 people per pod got a Modern Masters pack in their bag.
Oh.
And I was one such a lucky person, and I opened that pack, and it was a Tarmogoyf. Oh. And I like slammed the pack down, and I just went immediately out to the front. I was like, I need to buy a set of sleeves right now. When that card was still like $150, $200, and at the time I was, again, still in college, not a lot of money for Magic, and I was like, this is the most expensive card I've ever held in my hands. Yeah, I would have freaked out if I had to give it back at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's funny because literally before we started this, I was on Twitter and saw, I think it was Ristic Studies had retweeted like I've been thinking about this for 9 days, and it was a picture of the.
Is it the token thing?
It's the token thing where the token from Reflection of Kiki Jiki is more expensive than a tar. It's like
$7.
Wow, what it's like how the mighty have fallen in terms of like Magic finance, right?
It's like $3 now, and I'm like, oh, you used to be the champion of Modern. What happened to you, my boy?
Yeah, I wonder if they just like made a new version where they slap some like sort of evasion or something on it. If it would, you know what I mean, like a new like.
Slap a paragraph of very unique text on it, and there you go.
Yeah, it's kind of modern card design. Ward 3, and this triggers once a turn, and this and that cards.
Yeah, and at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library, and then flip a coin, and if you win the coin flip, then you add a mana or something. They are getting very complex. But again, like every time I think about that, I also think like they can only print like two bears for so long. So yeah, I
Yeah.
get it. They gotta keep new things rolling, but it
Yeah.
is funny to look back at cards that were like crazy wild a few years ago, and they're like, they're like 2 lines of text,
Yeah.
and they're so straightforward.
I remember my buddy. So I played in junior high, and then I stopped. And I played in high school, and then I stopped. And I played at college, and my buddy had, I think it was just called Elvish Warrior, Elf Warrior. It was a 2/3. No, it was just a 2/3, but it cost 2 green. And my mind was blown. I was like, it's a 2/3 for 2? Like, whoa, those like, that's so inexpensive, and those are such, because and like now it's like, oh wow, that's what level, like how could you design a vanilla creature that'd be worth someone's time, like have to be like a 5/5 for 2 or something, and even that, it's just crazy,
like a 0.17 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Okay, so you started with it's always interesting too. When like how people kind of get into, because like I find it interesting that you started with a format like Modern, like the format. I think like when I played, it was literally just jams cards together and like whatever you had, kitchen table. So it's funny that like it's cool seeing like, oh no, you were like, oh no, this was an actual format. There was like there were building restrictions and kind of themes, versus just slamming together like whatever you had.
I mean, that's kind of how I ended up playing Modern. Is like, I basically was just like, what is a format where I can build one deck and then like out of pretty much anything, and it will be a deck that's okay to play. And Modern was kind of the only thing, because I was like, I don't want to build Standard because it'll rotate.
Yeah.
And at the time I was like, I can't afford to keep buying new decks. I need to get, I'll splurge on one deck and that'll be my deck for a while. So yeah, my first couple of decks were pretty much just that, of just like my friends and roommates commons pile. That they were like, oh, you're building a green deck, you should put this guy in there. I'm like, sure, bam, he's in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then it kind of got more refined over time, but that, and then my first commander deck was pretty much the same thing, of just, stuff crammed together that was all the same colors.
Yeah. So Modern now, so have you switched mostly to playing mostly Commander? Do you still play Modern, or are you mostly a Commander? I know a lot of people like Commander is kind of the easy kind of go-to when you're trying to catch a game. Is that pretty true for you, you'd say? Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, it's way easier to just pick up a game of Commander. Like, I'll go hang out at the LGS when I have like, a day off of, doing anything. And there's always a couple of people be like, playing Commander? You got decks? Do you want to do a quick game or something?
Yeah.
Whereas for Modern, it's much more, it's a much more competitive format now. So it's, usually you can only get those at like F&M. So I mostly play Commander now, but I have been having the itch to return to Modern. It's been many years, and the meta is entirely different now.
Yeah.
But I do miss having kind of a more, like a tightly played kind of competitive format, whereas Commander is much more open, and it's very fun, but there's a type of fun in like the very fast, very punchy, everyone wins on turn 3 kind of formats like Modern and some of the other older formats that you don't get quite the same thing from Commander. So I've been considering going back.
Yeah.
I haven't committed to building a deck for it yet, but I'm considering.
You should probably wait. We're getting Modern Horizons 3 this year, aren't we? Isn't that?
Yeah.
That's probably, if you're really looking to kind of probably see how that goes before you really commit to anything, because those sets.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Shake up the formats a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure everything in Modern, like Modern Masters, or Modern, is it Modern Masters or Modern Horizons?
Modern Horizons.
Modern Horizons, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure all that stuff's going to change the format insanely, because like all the other stuff from Modern Horizons has been like whatever the meta card comes from those sets. So I kind of had that thought too, where I was like, I should not buy a deck right now. I should wait until things settle down. So.
Yeah, it's I mean, I can understand like the pull to play like a format like Modern. Like, I'm mostly a Commander player, pretty much mostly play like Pauper and other stuff, but sometimes, and this is going to sound probably a little meaner than it's mean to be, but like sometimes like you want to try to win the game, like Commander, it's almost taboo if you kind of go in and you're like, I'm gonna win this, if outside of like CEDH, There's
Yeah.
that whole divide and whatnot. But
Yeah,
like,
that's a whole thing.
yeah, it gets a little murky in like intentions. And I understand Commander's a casual format, but it's like a weird, ambiguous kind
Yeah.
of a way to play sometimes. But I think for the most part, as long as everyone's being cool and having fun, like that's all you really can look for in a Commander
yeah.
game.
I feel like there's kind of casual like lower power commander where it's like precons, maybe a little bit of upgraded precons. People are there for vibes and to have a fun casual time.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's like kind of another sliding chunk of commander players where I kind of land where it's like my decks have really powerful pieces in them. I'm not trying to go infinite on turn 2,
Yeah.
but I am going to have a cyclonic rift in there.
Yeah.
I have to have some things like that, or I think it's probably because of my background in playing modern for so long. It was really a weird adjustment for me where I'd be like, okay, cool, I'm gonna play this card, and people are like, no, don't play that card. That's mean. No, you shouldn't do that. And I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's so not a thing in any other format.
Yeah. You know what? I feel like I don't want to make blanket statements about Commander players, but it's like I feel like Commander players like when they get to play powerful cards, but they don't like powerful cards played against them. And I think
that is probably accurate.
Yeah. So I think that's like a weird thing that I don't know if it could ever be worked out, but because I can't make powerful like making like, so a lot of times you'll get a commander like the Shrine Commander, right? That Shrine Commander kind of has one straightforward kind of way you build it, and it's probably, if you build it with a bunch of shrines or whatever, probably really powerful. But it's so linear. I'm like, God, that's weird. Like I need something a little weirder or a little more difficult. I'll offset those types of decks with powerful cards, right? Because if you're doing weird strategies, but like you have some powerful cards to help you. But I feel like I've sat down at tables that people are like, oh, it's very casual, and then like it's like Ristic Study and like Force of Will, and it's all this stuff like, oh, I'm like, oh, this is not what I was expecting, which is fine, but it's just funny like that interplay between like casual but like power, but it's
like quite a wide sliding scale, I think, because I've had the same thing where I'm like, oh, you guys are playing casual commander, oh, I'll play my silly goofy little deck I have, and they're like, cool, I'm gonna play a Gaia's Cradle, I'm gonna play this dual land. I'm like, whoa. We're getting serious over here.
And then you play a strip mine, and it's like, oh, we land destruction, like, oh, leave my Gaia's Cradle. Like, that's not,
I'm gonna play a Mana Crypt and a Mana Vault, and I'm like, I will play a forest and pass. I will probably be dust soon.
Yeah. Too funny. So outside of Magic, I would venture to say many people might know you more as a cosplayer. We were kind of talking before, but you do a lot of Magic cosplays and non-Magic cosplays. I was raving about you have some of the most impressive armor builds I've ever seen in regards to cosplays. But being that this is kind of a magic podcast, you've done, I think your first Magic cosplay was a Nissa.
That was in, I want to say like
2015 perhaps?
Yeah, right around there, yeah. That's like, all like my GP I did, the cosplay, you can tell exactly when like, it turned on in my brain where I was like, oh, this is going to be like a thing. This is going to be amazing. This isn't just a hobby. I'm going to go a little insane about this. Around 2015 was it for me.
So what I'm going to, this is usually, it's a YouTube show, but I do an audio version. But if you're listening, the YouTube version, I'm going to pop up a bunch of pictures because I want to put these on the screen. But I have a Nissa, you have a Nira Wild Mage, Massacre Girl, Ashnod Flesh Machinist, Paradise Mantle, Elish Norn, or just to name a few of some of the cosplays you've done. And that's just the Magic world. This is not even related to the anime based cosplays you've done. So so much to talk about. So let's just talk about cosplay in general. When did you start, like what got you, like what inspired you to start cosplaying? I guess let's start there.
So I've been I was into anime since basically since I was a kid, and then like all the way up through like middle school is when I got really into anime. I was absolutely my crowd in middle school and high school were definitely the people who were wearing cat ears to school and Naruto headbands. That was my crew. Like,
Oh,
that's the
gosh.
kind of person I was then. And kind of still am on the inside. So I was always like really insane about anime and all this.
Yeah.
So like, back in the day, it was always like, I'd see like videos on YouTube of people going to cons and cosplaying, and me and my friends would be like, "Oh, one day we'll go to a con and we'll dress up and it'll be so cool." And then like we never like made it happen until like 2011 was the first con I went to,
Oh, wow.
YomaCon in Michigan. I had a friend who lived near like 2 blocks from the con center, and he was like, "Hey, you should drive down, crash at my place, and then we can just go to the con and it'll be great." And I was like, "Absolutely." So I threw together, possibly, I'll have to send you a picture of this, possibly like the worst cosplay of Aegis from Persona 3.
Okay.
I didn't have a wig, so my natural hair was blonde, so I didn't have a wig, and I just like parted my hair in a way that was like kind of close.
Yeah.
And Aegis has like a headband thing and like a headphone thing. I didn't have that, or I had a headband made out of paper.
Okay.
I was so bad, but I like didn't have any money, but I went, and it was like just such a fun time. And like I remember there was a guy who saw my shitty little Aegis cosplay, and Persona 3 is kind of a, even in anime stuff, is kind of a niche. When the game came out, it was much more niche. It's got more popular now because Persona 5 is, but I remember I saw like a guy saw my shitty little cosplay, and I just hear from like down a hallway, "Oh my god, is that Aegis?" And he like runs up to me. He's like, "Oh my god, I love Persona 3. I've never met anyone else who's played this game. Oh my god." And I was like, "This is awesome. I'm gonna do this forever."
That was that's a core memory unlocked right there. It was
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, crystallized.
And then I had a lot of experiences kind of like that of like, I've always been into kind of more on the niche side animes and JRPGs and that sort of thing, and just games in general. So it's always really fun to like go to those cons in cosplays from stuff that a lot of people don't recognize, because then people who did recognize it were like, "Whoa, I can't believe that! Can't believe anyone's ever seen this!" And it was really a very special moment of connection. So from 2011 onward, I just started going to cons in Michigan, where I lived at the time. And I started I made a cosplay of Link from, Zelda, because it was easy.
Oh, yeah.
And I did a couple more after that, and then I started working more into, like, armor and big props, probably about a year or 2 after that.
Oh, wow. Gosh, so much to unpack there. Link's cool. I love Link. I definitely want to see that one, too.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, just due diligence. So what, back in the day when you were hanging out with the people with the cat ears and the Naruto heads, what sort of, because I'm older, so for me, like, my animes were obviously Dragon Ball Z was like, that was waking up at 6 a.m. To watch it on the random, like, whatever, Channel 5. Ronin Warriors was my, that was like what I think Ronin Warriors was actually I didn't even realize. Well, technically it's funny actually, because there's photos, this is gonna be real weird tangent, but there's photos of when I was probably like 2 or 3, laying on just like my dad's chest, and he's watching Robotech. So like Robotech is like, what, because they used to like,
I have a Robotech DVD in my room.
yeah, it was like, Robotech's awesome, and I think it used to be one of those things, they played it at like, I think prime, I don't know, I think it was like a prime time kind of show, because it was kind of, it's like a drama, but it's like a military, but like Robotech was the first show I can remember like kind of watching, like, this is really, planes that turn into giant robots, and then then I can remember waking up on like Saturday mornings to watch Ronin Warriors at like, again, like at 6, it was like after Barney or something, and like Ronin Warriors would come on, and like the armor stuff, and then obviously Dragon Ball Z kind of came around, and I think for a lot of Toonami showed up, and Adult Swim, and I know, like, I watched a bunch of Sailor Moon. I thought Sailor Moon was super cool. I was like,
Sailor Moon. I watched that when I was a kid too, because I had when I was younger, I had very, very long blonde hair, like that, like past my waist, very long.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, Sailor Moon, she has long blonde hair, and she's great, and she's me, and I love her. Like, I was like obsessed with Sailor Moon when I was a kid.
Well, I think for a lot, she's kind of like a relatable hero in a lot of ways, because she's not, she's goofy, but she gets the job done, and with her friends and. I always thought, one of my favorite memes is Tuxedo Mask, where he like shows up and says something, and they're like, "You didn't do anything," and he's like, "Farewell." Yeah.
My job is done, but you didn't do anything.
So like, it's funny. So like, when people talk about anime, like these days, I don't even. There's like people start talking about animes they're watching, and I'm just like, what is this? Like, there's Dragon Ball Super now. Like, oh yeah, here we go. I got Goku back in my lifetime. But like, people drop things. But I did watch a lot of Naruto. For a while.
That was my city. Was Naruto. That's what was coming out when I was in like middle school to high school.
Yeah.
Like Naruto was airing weekly, and it was insane.
Yeah. God, do you remember watching things weekly? That's a trip.
I know. on Toonami on Saturday night every week. Yeah. Naruto was the big hotness, and then previous to that I'd always watch like Inuyasha, and like Rurouni Kenshin, and stuff like Ghost in the Shell and that sort of thing on late nights.
Yeah.
On like Adult Swim and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like I stayed pretty decently caught up with anime up until like 2017ish is kind of when I fell off, and now I kind of like pick and choose where like something new will come out, and if it really sells me on it, I'll get into it. But like I started doing more cosplays, and they're getting only further away from the present.
Yeah.
Like for a while I was like, I'm cosplaying stuff from 2015, and then I recently did one from Dirty Pair, which is from the 70s 80s.
Oh wow.
It was one of like the first anime, so I'm only getting more relevant as time goes forward. More and more niche.
Yeah. I need to throw out Gundam Wing, because that was my OG Gundam. I loved Gundam Wing, and I think that was like the first Gundam, like maybe English. I feel like it was the first thing on Toonami at least. So like I really liked Gundam Wing, and they kind of just. But yeah, to your point, once Dragon Ball Z kind of broke through, and they like, I'll never forget that commercial where they're like, "Hey, new Dragon Ball Z is coming," and everyone's just like, because there was it gets, everyone remembers that one episode, Goku was Super Saiyan, and then it restarts. That was the, and everyone's like, and we, if you were into it, you'd seen, you knew what all that was, but you wanted the new episodes, and then it came, and then it just, they just started. I feel like they just grabbed whatever animes they could on Adult Swim and just started throwing everything out there, and it just kind of it's weird because all that kind of stuff now is all mainstream, right? All that kind of like anime.
So strange.
Yeah, it's I was a big Star Wars kid.
I remember having to like tell people like, no, it's anime. It's the thing. It's from Japan, and this is this way because of this, and like now it's just so normal. Like again, back in my day, if you watch anime, you were like, oh, weird. Oh, you were those weird anime kids, man. Like, now it's like, you can go to the mall and, like, 5 different stores have anime merch. It's, I'm glad for the current generation to have it, but, like, back in my day, we were, like, printing off DeviantArt pictures and putting them in the front of our binders, because there just wasn't as much anime stuff in America at the time.
No, you had to go to, like, those, like, the special markets, and you get like the stickers and or collectible shows that maybe had stuff. But yeah, it was, kids have it so easy these days.
Yeah, I know.
They don't realize the pains that we went through to bring them all this, to bring them where they're at. Okay, I want to talk about your armor builds, because and you'll have to send me some of your favorites, but for me to put up, because like again, so for a little background for people listening, is I got to meet you at this past MagicCon in Vegas in 2023, and you were doing a Magic cosplay, but I got your card, and then I started looking at your social, whatever, and like these armor builds you have done are just, they're mind blowing. Like, as someone who is not good with his hands in terms of like crafting things, I'm just like, how is this even possible? Like, I don't, so if you. And I always, I always have like the utmost respect for cosplayers, because I don't think people realize a lot of times the time and effort that go into like not only making a cosplay. Like, it's one thing you're sewing and working with fabrics, but then like armor builds and like Eva foam and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's like a whole other level. So can you talk about, when did you really start getting into like the armor build kind of stuff, and what is that kind of process like when you like make an armor? If you will, as an armor, as a smithing.
Let me see. I'm trying to think of what my first armor was. probably one of my first like full armor, because I'd made like pieces and like
Yeah.
this character has this little, one piece at a time. But the first like full armor set I made was the Odogaron armor from Monster Hunter World.
Okay.
And that's when Monster Hunter World came out, and I think it was around. I want to say that was around like 2018, and I'd done like
Right.
other big cosplays, but not like a full armor set until then.
Yeah.
And that was made out of Warbler, which is a nightmare to work with.
What did you say, Warbler?
Yeah.
So what is that?
Worbla.
That's a
It's
word.
this really weird. It's a thermoplastic material. It comes in big sheets,
Okay.
and you can heat it with a heat gun and like shape it and mold it into whatever you want.
Okay, that's cool. But that sounds like a pain.
Oh, it is. So I don't love doing Warbler. I usually use foam now, but that process to make that was at the time the game had just come out. Like I'd been crazy about Monster Hunter since like early high school. I'd played Monster Hunter on the PSP, and I'd played like every Monster Hunter. I loved Monster Hunter. I was always like, oh, I'm gonna make a Monster Hunter cosplay someday. And when World came out, I loved that armor set and I loved the monster that it went with so much. I was like, all right, this is gonna be the one. We're gonna do it. And it was literally just like looking at screenshot, because there's no guide, because there's no pattern for something like this. You just have to like squint at a screenshot and just be like, that looks like it's a this piece is like it's like a W, and it's like it goes like this. And there you go, and cut it out. So I really had to wing it, and I made for my Odogaron cosplay, I made that in 2.5 weeks, just kind of making it after work and all that stuff on my kitchen table. So I didn't really have like many materials or anything. Just like me, Warbler, a heat gun, and like a utility knife and a dream on my floor in my apartment. So that one went pretty well, and I still have it. I have it like displayed above my mantelpiece. And sometimes I even look at it and I'm like, how did I make that? I don't think I could do it again. So I did that one, and then my Fallout stuff was kind of the same thing, where I love Fallout. Yeah. And I'm so excited for the upcoming stuff.
Yes. Well, definitely we're gonna get to Fallout. Don't worry. I have a lot of questions about you. A lot of questions about Fallout too, so I'm very excited. Yeah.
So that was kind of another armor build type thing I did, because I was like, I love Fallout. I wanted to make a thing for it, and kind of went that way with it. But yeah, it's a lot of it is just winging it. You just kind of look at something, you go, that looks like that's kind of like this shape. I don't know. Well, it needs to attach to my arm somehow. Glue a strap, I guess. To put it. Yeah, there we go. And you just kind of trial and error it until it works. It's more of a brain exercise than anything. Like it's very challenging sometimes to look at something that's like in a game and be like, what is that? What is this object? How do I make this into a real thing that works with real people physics and isn't just floating and that kind of thing? So, I learned a lot doing the Monster Hunter armor, and I've kind of applied a lot of that with more armor stuff that I've done since then.
I feel like starting... So I never played Monster Hunter, but I had friends... I would say you would have got along with my friends, because we used to hang out back in our early to mid-20s. Like, we get off work, and we'd all hang out at one guy's house, and they'd be all on their PSPs playing Monster Hunter, and I'd be like... I think I was playing Jedi Knight 2 on the computer. That was my big thing. But they'd just be like, fighting giant and I would watch, and like looking at the armors in those games, like they were really cool. So I feel like starting there is a pretty like, talk about we're going for it, like full bore, all gas, no brakes.
Trial by fire.
Like you can nail the Monster Hunter armors, you're gonna be set for everything else you can do. So that's super cool. I'm constantly blown away, and as I look at these things, because they're like, and some of them are large and like involved, and like, how is it hard moving around on a lot of them, or it just depends? I guess it probably depends on the particular build. Or like, do they tend to be heavy?
They're usually not too heavy. My Odogaron armor is made out of Warbler. It's not incredibly heavy, but it is pointy. So I have to be a little bit careful, because there are some kind of like, because once it solidifies, it's kind of sharp. So there are some kind of considerations you have to make when moving around in it, where you're like, oh, I can't like reach a certain way, or I will break this, or I will crash my armor together. I did Satsuki from Kill la Kill, which is like one of my really really big cosplays, the one with the big white, big
Yes.
pyramid pauldrons.
Yes. That's I think yeah.
And that one I love that one to death. That's she's my favorite character from my favorite show. But that one, the piece sits on top of my shoulders, and because of that, I can't raise my arm, and it like comes down to like here.
Yeah.
So I can't really raise my arms past like my elbows. It's so tall and so wide. To go through doors, I have to like turn sideways and like kind of squat and like
Shuffle,
shimmy
yeah.
through it. Yeah, so they don't tend to be too heavy. They do tend to be warm, though.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of layers on layers and layers, so that is a consideration for it. But I try to make my stuff very light, because I don't want to carry around heavy armor too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of my stuff is also made out of EVA foam, which is super super light. Like it's weighs barely anything.
Is there as someone who has obviously no knowledge, but is it one of those things like the foam is easier to work with, but maybe like not as I don't want to say high quality as your Warbler? Is that kind of like because the Warbler is like harder to work with because you're basically melting and reshaping plastic? Is the foam like you can work it out, but like maybe it's not as durable? Is it kind of that one of those kind of trade-off things, or is the foam pretty? Would you say the foam's pretty durable, or how does that kind of?
I would say that like they're kind of two sides of the same coin. So Warbler is really good if you want something to be like really hard, like you can knock on it. It's really a piece that will not move.
Yeah.
And that's kind of good in some scenarios where like if you want to make something that's not going to be like on your elbows and your knees and all that stuff. But for EVA foam, it's a little bit easier to work with because it's like a like those like anti-fatigue mats that you can stand on, like the foam squishy ones. That's EVA foam.
Okay.
Same kind of material.
Got it.
And it's way more forgiving. So like when you basically just rubber cement stuff together, and that's how it's held together.
Yeah.
So you cut your pieces and you stick them together, and it's really really easy and it's pretty cheap. Warbler is pretty expensive, but it produces like a really nice polished looking thing at the end. So I'd say I would still pick EVA foam almost all of the time when I can.
Yeah.
But it does require more work. Like you have to know how to glue it together and cut them out, and then you have to sand it, and then you have to prime it, and then you have to paint it and all that crap. Whereas for Warbler, it's just kind of like you just spray paint it and then it's done, kind of.
Gotcha.
So it's a little bit more work, but I think it's a lot better because it's also more flexible because it stays EVA foam stays bendy, so you don't have to worry too much about stabbing yourself on your armor all the time.
It's important. Typically, you don't want armor to stab you. If anything, you want it to stab your enemies.
Exactly.
But so that's super cool. Very like again, someone who just looks at this stuff like, man, I don't even know the process that goes involved. But that's cool. Like, I didn't even realize the kind of different. Like I'd heard of EVA foam, but the Warbler was that's news to me. So super cool.
Yeah, I feel like not as many people use Warbler anymore because it's kind of the same thing where like once you know how to work with EVA foam, it's easier and cheaper.
Yeah.
Warbler's nice, but it's pricey and kind of annoying. So
so obviously very cool armor builds from some of your anime stuff, but also a lot of magic characters as well. So I know some. So I'm pretty sure Nero Wild Mage is one of your favorite cards, right? Is that fair to say?
Yes, I love her dearly.
So what? But let's start with your first cosplay, Nissa. I think it was it Nissa who 2015.
Gosh, I can't remember. I think I did it was like Nissa Ravane, or just I had to kind of combine a couple aspects of her different outfits because she's slightly different in all of the arts.
Yeah.
I think it was close to Nissa Ravane is the one with like the crop top situation. I can't remember exactly which one it is now.
It's
one of them.
So many versions of these cards now. It's like
yeah.
So what was about Nissa that was like, oh, that's the first magic? Like what was about her that you're like, oh, that's the one I want to start with? Like what was any particular reason?
I'd always really identified as a green player. I was like, I'm a green player.
Mm-hmm.
I like mana and I like big creatures, and that's my thing. Like that's my thing at Magic, and I really like it. And like my first deck that I'd played before I got into playing Infect more, which Infect was still almost entirely green also.
Yeah.
I played mono green mana ramp for so long. I was just like all about green. I was like, I'm a green player. I like green decks. I won't play any other color than green. So Nissa was just kind of the obvious choice there.
Yeah.
There's that, or I don't think I'd make a very good Garrick, unfortunately.
I don't know. I don't know. After seeing
The big axe is pretty tempting. It's pretty nice.
that, you know what, that it feels like that kind of would go along with your brand. Like I can imagine you
Right?
with a big axe. So, I mean, you could do a Nissa with a big axe. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You just do cross.
I feel like I borrowed it from Garrick. It's
Yeah,
fine.
just let me borrow it. I was like, hey, can I borrow this for a second? I got to go do a thing. Sure, no problem.
So, yeah, I guess.
But yeah, some of these cosplays. I know. I've seen your masker. Sorry, your masker. Oh wow, can I even say the word massacre? There we go. We got that.
There we go.
Massacre Girl has been kind of popping up a lot more on my feed again. Probably, I assume we're seeing a return to Ravnica with the murder at. I'm gonna get this wrong. Murder at Karlov Manor.
Karlov Manor. Yes. I kept on saying murders at Markov Manor, and that's not right either.
Yeah, it was whatever the latest murder set.
Yeah.
So obviously another fantastic cosplay there, but the one I really kind of want to talk about. There's two. One because I took photos of you, or a photo, or two photos of you. Your Paradise Mantle. Which seemed like a very like comfy, easy cosplay to do. I don't know if it was easy, but compared to some other stuff I've seen, like this looks like a very fun cosplay to wear because you're just, it looks like a very nice, cozy sort of thing. And I actually have a photo. I've put it up here a few times with some other people, but of I think they got labeled as the what do we call it? The Secret Lair Royals. It was from MagicCon.
Yeah.
It was I'm gonna see if I can remember. It was you as the Paradise Mantle. It was
actually I have a picture from that here. I have a little pinboard where I keep all my scraps of things, and it's,
that's the picture. Yeah, I took that. That's
there
even.
we go.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, there
she is.
That's so cool. So that was a fun little group kind of photo there. And actually, I took one over. I had this. Okay, here's a funny story. Well, it's not funny. It makes me just look really silly, but I'm gonna say it anyways. I took a photo of you in the mantle and with like a green gelled flash. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah. Oh,
so
yeah, I do.
I had this whole plan for that convention because they had just put out, I don't remember what exactly set it was, but they were doing the portrait versions of cards.
Yeah, those like Commander Masters portraits.
Commander Masters, right. Yeah. And it was like the solid color backgrounds. And in my head, I'm like, well, that's kind of interesting. And I was like, well, maybe I can flip it where I blast a color on a cosplayer with a single color and just do a dark background. And I literally spent in my room like hours fussing with settings and like, how do I get this to whatever? Because using a flash to kill the background with just a handheld flash, it's very difficult. And I had this whole plan. I was ready to go, and I did your photo. I'm like, oh yeah, this looks pretty cool. Like, I'll pop it up right here. And I was pretty happy when it came out. And then every other time I tried it with someone, it did not look good. So like, I immediately had a whole plan I just scrapped. And I had all this stuff on me, and I'm like, well, I don't need any of this stuff anymore. And I just went doing kind of some normal stuff. But, best laid plans. It is what it is. But
it happens to the best of us. I've done the same thing where I've had like a concept for like, I'm like, oh, I have this cosplay on, and I'm gonna have all these lights set up, and I'm gonna do like this kind of a pseudo, I'll have a whole thing staged up for a shoot. And then I take a couple photos of it. I'm like, oh, this doesn't look like it did in my head.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
Yeah, it's the life of an artist. Like, we struggle, and it's just trying to make it a reality. So, but yeah, that was a super cool concept too. Like, it's funny. Like, you see these cards or these symptoms. Like, oh, I never would have thought about someone cosplaying as that, but it was such a unique look. Like, oh yeah, that's a cool idea. Like, that's I think seeing stuff like that sometimes is kind of a fun little like, oh, that's clever. Like, that's a very fun way to kind of engage. Yeah,
because that version of her, I'd played Paradise Mantle. I used to play a deck in Modern called Cheerios. It was not very good, and it was not very consistent, but I really liked it.
Yeah.
And then Mox Opal got banned, and then that deck went in the garbage.
Yeah.
But anyways, I played Paradise Mantle as one of the key parts in that deck. So the version of Paradise Mantle I did at Vegas was the Secret Lair version.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's a character with pink hair with like all these rainbow like pastel things. I was like, this is so like my department.
Yeah.
So I got really excited about it. I think I made that one really quickly too. The only thing that took a long time was the coat. Like the shirt was really easy. I had that green tank top basically already, and I just used bleach to bleach like the Paradise Mantle and Zero into the front.
Nice.
But the coat was, I thrifted like a big poofy white jacket. You know, I was like, cool, that'll work. But I couldn't figure out a good way to get like the color splotches on there the way they are on the card.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, if I use paint, it's gonna make it all gross. It's gonna be nasty. So what I ended up doing is I got a bunch of chalk, like a bunch of different colored chalk, and I basically just like scrubbed the colors into the coat, and I took like one of those like wire like brushes and brushed it through the coat.
Oh, that's clever.
So that's how we ended up with that look.
Yeah, no, that's smart. Yeah, because like paint or anything would clump together. It would be chalk. I would never. Yeah, see there you go, cosplayers. Chalk. There's a secret insider tip right there.
Exactly. I can't say I recommend it because it looks good, but I like tore like my arms to shit doing that because it's just combing and combing this giant coat on my floor. It worked, but I was also very hot at Vegas because it's a big winter coat and it was like 80 degrees at Vegas.
Yeah, it was a warm time. It was the middle of the desert,
Yeah, it was nice to wear like regular clothing though, like you know, a shirt and shorts and a coat and shoes, and not have to have all kinds of crazy shit on me.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. That's probably one of those cosplayers like, I'm gonna make this work because it's gonna be the most comfortable, one of the most comfortable cosplays I ever do. And like, I mean, it looked good. Like, it was very accurate. It looked very good, but like, plus it felt easy to wear. Like, that's a nice double bonus there, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So. And then also, I wanted to touch on one other Magic cosplay. Was you did an Elish Norn for?
Oh, I did.
Was that, I believe? Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it specifically for the professor in a video, or was it you had it, or how was that? Because help me out.
Yeah, it was previous to the professor's video.
Okay.
I had it just I think it was around Halloween time the previous year.
Okay.
Before we even knew we were going, that like Phyrexia was happening, and that was the next step. Before that was even like announced.
Yeah.
I just I really like Phyrexia, and I had played Infect for so long.
Yeah.
And I was having I was like, oh, I really want to make like a big crazy Magic cosplay. I'd kind of not been playing Green so much, but I loved Infect and I loved Phyrexia, and I was like, Elish Norn is just the obvious choice. Look at her. She's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'd made it, and I, like, pretty unprompted. Like, there wasn't really anything going on that prompted me to do it. And then, like, a month after, or, like, pretty soon after that was when, All-Be-One was, like, announced, and I was like, oh my god, I couldn't have timed this better. This is so cool, because it was already done.
Yeah, no, that's pretty serendipitous. That's pretty sweet, yeah.
Yeah, and then Prof reached out to me and was like, hey, I saw your Elish Norn stuff. You should come hang out and be on the show. And it was really, really fun. He lives, not too far from me, so I just got to drive down there.
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
it was
nice.
super great.
Yeah.
And in that video, though, I can't see with the helmet on because it comes down to, like, about here.
Yeah.
And then I've got claws on my hands, and I've got, like, paint from, like, here down. So I'm just walking around blind. I can't use my hands. Oh, it's awful.
Oh,
it looks so good, and I love that cosplay, but it's so, like, just not friendly to, like, walking around a con in.
Yeah.
It's very difficult, but I do still have the helmet, like, displayed in my living room.
Oh, that's cool. Fitting, right? Because I think that was before she was unmade. I think that's all that was left of her, right? That was the con death. So, talk about two sides.
When I did one other quick thing about that, sorry. Yeah. When I did the Elish Norn cosplay, there was only one art for her out at the time. This is when we only had, like, Elish Norn Grand Cenobite, the original one. That was the singular piece of art we had to go off of. So, and it cuts at, like, her legs, too. That art does. So I just had to, like, guess at what was going on from the waist down. And then, we got like 18 other arts after I already made the dang thing.
More arts than you could have ever wished for.
Yeah.
Gosh, yeah. How many? There were literally 18 different treatments.
There's so many.
Yeah, it's wild how they kind of went a little berserk on that. So, but yeah, I'll definitely link that video because it's a great video, a great cosplay. It's fun. And it's funny. Like, you look at it and I can imagine you're just like, hello, like, just point me in the right direction. Hopefully, we're good to go. Right? That's
Yeah,
kind of
because like I can see like down in front of me, but I can't
yeah,
see like if somebody's like here talking to me, I can't see them. I can see from like straight down basically.
yeah,
Uh, and for that video, they had me doing. They had Spice 8 Rack did like the voiceover for it,
yeah.
and then they were gonna have me like mime that I was the one talking basically, and for all of them, they would basically just play Spice's clip, and then I'd have to memorize it, and then we would do like I would record that clip of me saying the thing and gesturing,
Yeah.
and then we just did every single phrase that way of me standing blind, no hands, just in this meat suit. It was exhausting, but it was super super fun.
Yeah, sounds like it, but that's too funny. So we're gonna stay on cosplays a little bit, but we're gonna pivot. So we've hinted at it. We've kind of talked about. You're obviously a huge Fallout fan. So we're gonna pop up those cosplays right now. So you have again some of the craziest, like, awesome looking cosplays I've seen. As someone who has never, don't get mad, but has never played Fallout, like there's nothing.
Now's the perfect time.
Well, you know what? Fallout 3 was free on one of the things,
Isn't it
but
like
then
Game Pass or something? Yeah.
yeah, but then New Vegas was only like $5, and I
Yeah.
think
There was like a holiday sale recently.
yeah,
Where it was like
exactly. And but I feel like, and correct, I think most people say like if you've never played one, New Vegas is a good one to kind of jump into or start with, maybe.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna make some people mad. I know. I don't think Fallout 3 is as good as people remember. I think that people like Fallout 3 because it was most people's first Fallout.
Okay,
And,
yeah,
of course, it looks magical and great because it was your first one. There's great parts about it, but I think New Vegas is objectively like the best one, the best representation of Fallout as a series. New Vegas is fantastic. It ages pretty well too.
okay.
I like Fallout 4, which is not popular to say.
Oh, really?
A lot of people
Okay.
bag on that game, but I do like it. The main plot's a little weird, but
Is it what don't people like about it? Is it a gameplay thing? Is it a plot thing? Is it a little from everything
I think
thing?
it's a combination of things. They kind of made it a little more like the older Fallouts were a little goofier, a little sillier. They had a lot of more character.
Yeah.
Fallout 4 kind of plays a little bit more like just an RPG. Like it's just a little bit more vanilla.
Yeah.
The story is kind of boring. Like in New Vegas, there's like all these crazy groups. There's like the cons who are like crazy barbarians. Then there's like the NCR. They're like a corrupt government and all this stuff. And then you go to Fallout 4, and it's just everyone's kind of boring, and your motivation is like your kid gets stolen or something.
Oh.
And it's just kind of like,
Kid gets stolen.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, I guess. I'll save my kid.
But like, yeah, exactly. Whereas like New Vegas is much more like gunslinging and going through the desert and all. It's much more exciting. The plot of Fallout 4 is a little bland, and it loses a little bit of character. I still like that game, but I would say if you wanted to get started, New Vegas is probably the best. If you're gonna play one, I would say play New Vegas.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Fallout. Is that Bethesda? Is that a Bethesda?
Yes.
Okay. Anyways, I've played.
Sure is.
Yeah. Probably. With all that entails, I'm sure the good and the bad when it comes to Bethesda games. I was really into Skyrim. Skyrim was kind of like my big. Played Morrowind back in the day. A lot of Morrowind. Which was fine. Like I always enjoyed the exploration aspect. The combat was always like, just like but
something you just kind of mash through so you can keep going.
Yeah. So Fallout. So what? How long have you been into Fallout? I mean, have you played like all the games? Like when you gush to me about your love of Fallout and talk to me about your awesome cosplay. Like when did you decide to kind of build that? And what was that? Was that it seems very screen accurate would be the first thing I would say. Would you, if you would agree with that? And like, was that just something you're like, okay, I'm ready to do this. I'm gonna make this sweet Fallout cosplay. How did that kind of come about?
Yeah, now that we're talking about this, I'm realizing how many of my cosplays were just like, I don't know, I just felt like it one day. I just randomly, a ghost inhabits me, and then I go, I need to make this.
There you go.
But I haven't played one or two. I've heard they're fantastic. I've watched many, things about them. The thing is, they're very old. They're very old PC games. but they have a lot of the core DNA of Fallout
Yeah.
in them. And the people who worked on Fallout 1 and 2, like the team that did Fallout 1 and 2 is different from the team that worked on Fallout 3 forward.
Yeah.
So they're kind of different, but a lot of the structural DNA of Fallout is in those first 2 games. I have not played them. I should. I will get to it eventually.
One day.
It's on the list, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I played Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4, Fallout 76. I even played Fallout Shelter, which was the app game for a little while.
You know, I had a friend who played that. He said it was okay. Like it was in.
It's okay.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I would say. It's
for a phone app
fine.
game. Yeah. I heard actually 76 is probably one of the more controversial games. In terms of, yeah.
I pre-ordered that game and I bought it at launch and I played it and it was a disaster at launch. It was very glitchy. It was very buggy, like unplayably. My friend and I were actually playing together and it'd be like we'd go into a building and he'd like turn around like in game to say something or like to look at me and he'd be like, "Your head's gone." I'm like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Wait, your model got turned into a girl. All my clothes are gone. Where's my weapon? I'm in a different room. Oh my gosh, like, 100,000 things are spawning." It was chaos. Like, everything was just randomized. Everything was, like, so broken. But it was very fun. They've since fixed the game a lot.
Yeah.
They kind of had the No Man's Sky Cyberpunk 2077 experience.
Okay.
Of, like, a really rough launch that was full of bugs.
Yeah.
And then they fixed it over time.
Got it.
I like 76. It's all right. It's not like my most exciting Fallout, but I'll play it.
Yeah, that's funny. So we were kind of talking beforehand, but this Fallout shoot you've done, and it was in Vegas. It was in Nevada. Was it Vegas, Nevada? I've already forgotten.
Let's see. I've done 2. I did the one with like the broken down buildings, and then I did one. Yes.
Yeah.
The one with the broken down buildings, that one is, there was it was like an abandoned, it was like a whole campus of like mental health facilities here in Washington. It's literally called like Washington, like North State Hospital or something like that. And basically the government funding for it dried up and then they just kind of abandoned the place. And so it's all full of, there's, warnings everywhere. They're like, "Be careful, don't go in here." Yeah. And I, of course, go in there anyway.
Yes.
But it's all like broken down buildings and very, very Fallout-esque. And I went up there with my friend Cads, who is always willing to do crazy-ass shoots with me. And I was like, "Hey, do you want to go to this place in the middle of nowhere in the mountains at like 5 a.m. to go do this shoot for Fallout?" And he was like, "Absolutely, let's do it." So yeah, I did that, and it's like the best photos I have of my stuff. I could not have asked for a better location. And then I actually carted my stuff all the way to Good Springs, Nevada, for a different thing. Yeah. Which is where Fallout 7 or Fallout New Vegas starts, and it starts in a town called Good Springs, which is based off of real life Good Springs. And there's there's 2 buildings in the game, and they're based off of the 2 buildings that are in Good Springs, like the saloon, and it's like 1-to-1, and they have like a little Fallout shrine in the back. Oh, wow. It's so cool. But those are like the 2 most exciting shoots I've gotten to do with my Fallout stuff. I love that game to pieces.
That's super cool. Yeah, I feel like when you can find a location that really fits like the cosplay you're doing. It's like it's such a different experience, like both as like a photographer and like I'm sure as the cosplayer, like it just brings it to another level. It really kind of brings home the whole aspect. And like and like I said, I'm gonna pop up some of the photos, but like it just like it's like perfect. The settings and like the cosplay itself are just fantastic. So yeah, just wild stuff. And then on top of all that, we're getting a Fallout Magic set.
Yes.
So
I couldn't have dreamed for a more exciting collaboration for me specifically.
And it's funny because like I think it's fair to say like the Universe Beyond stuff has been met with a little trepidation by certain people, some people, but you're getting a lot of things where like, oh, we're getting a Fallout set, like like you're thrilled. Like I know for me, the Doctor Who set was like, oh, like Doctor Who. Like I love Doctor Who. Like this is
Yeah.
So it's being able to, I think, bring the game to people who maybe had no interest in it, but like, oh, here's like an entire crossover that's like all this stuff you love. Like it's a great way to bring, I think, encourage new players to come into the game, which is like what you want to do with a gaming space. You want more people playing.
Yeah.
You don't want to, it's really easy to kind of gatekeep a lot of times in gaming situations, but it's a little weird, but like it's just like anything else. Like there's games have to change and evolve, and this is kind of where the game's going. And it's just we're just getting more cards and more. And I will say that the universe beyond these kind of, especially these when they do like the pre-con, and Lord of the Rings, I guess Lord
of the Rings was huge.
It was huge, and it was so flavorful, and just like the cards felt.
Yeah,
everything
it was perfect.
It was perfect, and everything like makes sense, and you're getting like the designs. The design for these sets have been fantastic. I think that's been really what's making them do so well is like the card design. They're all on point. It's been and that's really because you can do everything you want with like flavor and like pictures. Like here's, oh gosh, I was gonna say a Fallout person. What's the dog meat? Dog meat.
Dog meat. Yeah.
Dog meat, right? You can make a dog meat card, but like if the card is bland or uninteresting, like okay, well you just use the name and the art, and it's like whatever.
Yeah, it's like you didn't really put a lot of thought into it, but from the stuff that we've seen for the Fallout decks, we haven't seen much yet.
Yeah.
But from the stuff that they have shown, it's like, you can tell that it's all very carefully put together, and like every card that I've seen so far has been like, oh my god, that makes sense, because that's like the thing that's in the game, and it's like this, because
Yes.
Yeah, I am very pleased to see how much like care and effort has gone into these, because like, I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings person myself. It's a movie, I've seen it, but I wasn't like, oh, it's my thing.
Yeah.
But I've really loved seeing how many people are like, I've had people like approaching me and be like, I kind of want to get into Magic. I love Lord of the Rings. How can I get into Magic? How do I play this game that has Lord of the Rings in it now?
Yeah.
And there's a huge swath of people who are joining Magic just from that set because it was just so cool and so popular, and kind of gave a good segue into what is otherwise a very complicated and hard to approach game.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh cool, this is something familiar that I do know.
Yeah.
So it's how do I say? Universe Beyond is good if you like it, if that makes sense. Like, if it's a thing that you like, then you'll probably love it.
Yeah.
If it's a thing that you don't like, another one will probably come out in a little while, and maybe that one will be for you. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I know a lot of people are going to go nuts when the Marvel one comes out.
It's going to be, it's crazy because if history is any indication, it's probably going to be really good. It's probably going to be really flavorful. And it's going to be this weird thing because if it does sell really well, it's real, and it probably opens the door for probably the biggest thing they could do is probably going to be Star Wars, right? If you do Marvel, you probably now obviously it's
that's
weird
tough
because
that's Disney. That's Disney now, so.
But Marvel's Disney.
Like, that's true. Marvel. What is it now? Is it like Marvel Studios, or one of them is Disney and one's not? I can't remember.
I guess so. It really depends on how it all works out because like if it's probably going to be like the Marvel comic characters, right? Because the movie stuff is
I think that's under Marvel Studios.
There's weird licensing stuff, right? So you can't we're probably not getting a Chris Evans Captain America, but it'll probably be like a comic Captain America. And then like like Sony owns the Spider-Man I don't even know what you would call it, but like rights to the movies, right? So you're probably not getting a Tom Holland Spider-Man, but they, I think the Marvel Comics, they can do the comic version of Peter Parker or what have you. But that's like the Disney side. But I think Star Wars, I don't know. I guess it depends how the license, because they actually there is a new Star Wars card game coming out like in the next month or so. Star Wars Unlimited. So like it's also like, well, do they want to compete against their own sort of card game? But I think at the end of the day, if the Marvel set sells gangbusters, like I can't not see them doing Star Wars. Like I just can't.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
It's the logical like next step.
Yeah, because that's probably the only other property I would think that could probably beat like a Lord of the Rings sort of. I'm trying to think what other properties that would be the level could draw as many.
Yeah, I feel like Marvel is already like that would have been like my first answer is like Marvel, DC Comics.
Yeah.
And then probably more like video games I would like to see.
Yeah.
I'm holding out hope for like anime specific ones, but that's just for me.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of I see a lot of times there's a lot of crossover between Magic players, and a lot of people play the One Piece card game is kind of picking up a little steam.
If they ever do a Monster Hunter Universes Beyond, I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of one of those ones where I could see like that would make sense. Like, and that was I think the other thing why Lord of the Rings was so well received. Like, it kind of the fantasy setting kind of made sense.
Yeah, it's like it's already got elves, it's already got things that cast spells.
Yeah. I mean everything fantasy just is derived from Lord of the Rings, right? That's where it all started. Yeah. Anyways, but. Gonna say something and I lost my train of thought, but the video game thing. But like I know, I'm excited for the final. They're having the whole Final Fantasy thing. Like that's that's to me like that. Actually, I want a Zelda one. Where's the Zelda?
Secret? See, I would love. I'm a little middling on Final Fantasy. I've played a handful of them, but Zelda, I would lose my mind about. Yeah. That's another. Yeah. There he is.
There you go.
It's all upside down. There it goes. Yeah. There we go. Yeah.
Oh, that was it the Lens of Truth? Is that Lens of Truth?
Yeah, it's the Sheikah symbol.
The Sheikah symbol, yeah. So Zelda, for me, as someone who's gotten older and like doesn't have as much time for like video games, I still like I bought a Switch just for Breath of the Wild, and I beat that. I will buy and beat whatever system I need to play the new Zelda game. Like the Zelda is that's the one game that I will continue to follow. Hopefully until I die. That's the plan. We'll see how that goes. But like that's so like, and again, I mean, to me, Zelda they could slide that perfectly into Magic, and that would make a ton of sense. Like there's it's
already got weapons and spells and pointy eared people. To be like that, it's an elf. Whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
I actually just finished Wind Waker.
Wind Waker's so
good.
I
got the HD remaster for Wii U. I love the Wii U as a console.
Yeah.
So I was really happy to snag a copy of it because the HD remaster has a lot of like quality of life improvements that make the game a lot better.
Yeah,
makes boat faster.
Yeah, as someone who beat the GameCube version, I'm a little jealous because they made the boat faster and didn't they change it? Because I think so in the GameCube version, I'm pretty sure. Spoilers for Wind Waker for you find the Triforce, right? You have to go get the Triforce, and I think in the GameCube version you have to find maps to find pieces of the Triforce, where I think in the HD version you just get the Triforce. You don't have to find the map. I think you just go.
No, you do still have to do that.
Oh, you do. You
just have to find the Triforce charts, and then you have to go where the chart is and pick up the piece and do all that crap.
Okay.
Because I played the GameCube one originally.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't want to haul out the GameCube to play one game.
Yeah.
But I don't think I finished it. I still own both versions, but I was like, if I'm gonna play this game, I might as well play the shiny new one.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I was the only one I haven't beaten / really I didn't play when it came out was Skyward Sword because I didn't have a Wii.
Oh yeah.
So I have.
Same, yeah. I didn't get a Wii until like way later.
Yeah, so, I just couldn't get them. I worked at Best Buy when they launched, so like, I was not allowed to buy them like as an employee, which was annoying.
And the Wii's launch was just crazy too.
Yeah. Well, I don't think no one realized how popular it was going to be. I think because the price point was I think it was like $200 compared to like I think at the time it was like the PS.
I think PS3 was like 300
3
something.
or 4, and the Xbox 360 was like 3 or 4 depending or whatever. So like $200, you're like sure, and Wii Sports.
And it's got Mario on it.
Yeah, Mario. Yeah. But I did get they did a HD version of Skyward Sword on the Switch. So it's like a non-motion controlled version that you can play. It's a little wonky, like it's like so like it's been a little hard to play. But most people, a lot of people like say the story is phenomenal and it's been cool. I need to go back and finish that one. I got that and then I got the Link's Awakening HD on the Switch.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Which I was like, I remember really liking the Game Boy version. I was like, I don't know if this art style.
I played the Game Boy version too.
Yeah, it's if you have a Switch, like the HD one, it's worth playing. It's just
I've been considering it. Now that I finished Wind Waker, I was literally thinking like, well, what other Zelda games haven't I
Yeah.
either finished or gone through? And Skyward Sword is one of them where like I played some of it
Yeah.
when it came out, many years ago. Like, a friend lent me lent me it for like a week.
Yeah.
But I didn't really get that far, and it just didn't really, it didn't hook me at the time.
Yeah.
But maybe if I gave it another chance, I might get more into it. And then I played the original, the Link's Awakening that was on the Game Boy.
Yeah.
And I've heard that the cute, colorful new one is like still a pretty one-to-one to the original. Like, it's very, very true to form and all that. So, one of them might be on the list soon.
Yeah.
Because I did Breath of the Wild and then Tears of the Kingdom. Kind of, I did Breath of the Wild. Originally, I played it on the Wii U.
Oh wow.
I'm one of probably 10 people that did that.
Okay. Yeah.
I played through the entirety of it on the Wii U. And then when I got a Switch, years later, I played through all of it again.
Yeah.
And then I played through Breath of the Wild, or I played through Breath of the Wild the second time on the Switch, right before Tears of the Kingdom came out, because I was like, I want to just go straight through.
Yeah.
And then I played Tears of the Kingdom. I have this thing where, like, every time I get sick or hurt my back, there's always a new Zelda game out. So every time, the first time I played Breath of the Wild, I was just like, it was before COVID, but I was just horrendously sick. I had like a terrible flu. Like, I thought I was dying for like 2 weeks.
Wow.
And I played through all of the Breath of the Wild on the couch in those 2 weeks. And then same thing, like, I threw out my back when Breath of the Wild came out. And then when Tears of the Kingdom came out, I also, I think that's when I had COVID.
Oh, God.
So I've just been horrendously ill every time I played it. But I really, really love all those games, and I am kind of now revisiting them too.
Yeah.
I did a cosplay of Purah from Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh, you did?
Love her.
Yeah. That's like Purah.
I love her. She's great.
Very, just the right amount of sass.
Yes.
I love Tears of the Kingdom. I was like, I could not get over how they took. I already loved Breath of the Wild. I couldn't get over how much more I loved Tears of the Kingdom. Like, I was like, oh, I don't, I thought it was gonna be good, but like, I feel like every little thing they did to update the playstyle and the story and everything, it was just like phenomenal. Like, blew my mind how much I loved that game. Like, it's just incredible.
And like, I'm still blown away by how much they accomplished. I'm like, how did they do this on the Switch?
Yeah.
With the physics and all this stuff, that's insane.
Yeah,
it is. So much stuff in that game. I'm like, I don't understand how this is possible on the Switch, but yeah.
That's
incredible
that's
game.
Nintendo. That's like the first party Nintendo games. They know what they're doing. Like, they know how to push within the limits of those little kind of dinky specs they have on the Switch compared to some other stuff. But so okay, I want to pivot just a little bit, but I have to get into two things. First thing is you're a Capcom creator, which I didn't know that was a thing. Doesn't surprise me, because I feel like most things have creators and ambassadors, which we'll talk about being an ambassador too. But so Capcom creator, obviously, you love Monster Hunter, so I can see where you kind of get it. But what is involved with being a Capcom creator? Like, how did you get into that? Like, what's that program like, or what is that all about?
Yeah, it's a pretty low key program. It's something that they do for cosplayers, artists, YouTubers. If you make any kind of content for Capcom games, they have a thing you can literally just apply to be part of the Capcom creator program. And I have a couple of friends who are all Monster Hunter cosplayers.
Yeah.
And they got into this, and they're like, "You should apply. You do Monster Hunter cosplays." I was like, "Oh, yeah, but you guys are so much better. They don't want me in there." And I applied, and they were like, "Welcome aboard. You're a Capcom creator." And then I was like, "Wow." So I mostly do Monster Hunter stuff, as far as Capcom properties go.
Yeah.
And they sent me. When I got accepted, they sent me like a cute little kit, and it's got a little light that says like Capcom creators. There's like a shirt and like a desk mat and all this cute stuff. So that's been really cool. I've gotten to do some beta testing of Monster Hunter stuff, because there's like Monster Hunter Now came out, and it's like the Monster Hunter Pokemon Go basically.
Okay. Oh, okay. Sweet.
So,
that sounds fun.
Oh, it's so fun. And Niantic basically worked with the Capcom Creators Group to be like, hey, do you want to have some of them just beta test this unreleased game?
Yeah.
So I got to do that, and it was super, super cool. They're not quite as, I guess, the Capcom Creators Group isn't as social media present as like Magic Ambassadors and stuff are.
Yeah.
It's more just like, a pretty chill group. There's like a Discord server for Capcom creators where we, be like, oh, we're going to these cons, we should cosplay together.
Yeah.
They have like, they do tons of giveaways and contests and stuff in there, and it's all really cool. But yeah, I'd say Monster Hunter is pretty much the biggest thing, and as far as Capcom stuff,
Yeah.
and pretty much everyone in there has like one Capcom game that's like their thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's like people who are really into like Exo Fighter or like Exo Prime or whatever it was, and really into Resident Evil or really into Street Fighter and that kind of thing. So yeah, Monster Hunter is my main thing, and then the game Okami that was on the PlayStation 2.
Yeah,
that's a Capcom game too, and I do like that game a lot.
very very Zelda-esque, I think, in gameplay, like in the kind of the vibe. Gorgeous, like ink style graphics. I remember being like,
I love that game. I recently replayed it again. I've replayed that game like 4 times because I played it on the PS2, and then I bought it for Wii. And you would think that the motion controls would be like totally helpful for that game, but they're it's so much of a pain in the ass. But I'm like, I don't want to fight with the motion controls. Just do the attack. I don't care. I don't want to swing all over. But I got Okami HD on the Switch, and then I replayed it from beginning to end recently too. And that game is, I love that game very much. You can really tell how much like Zelda DNA is in it when you play it. You're like, this is a Zelda puzzle.
Yeah.
This is a Zelda dungeon.
Yeah.
It's Zelda with dogs.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's kind of one of those hidden gem kind of series. Like, it's, if you know it, you're like, oh yeah, this is phenomenal. But it's not. I don't think it's as well known. Maybe.
Yeah, because it's kind of a standalone. There was a spin-off called Okami Den that was like a handheld game, but it's not like a big series or anything. But yeah.
It's funny talking about Monster Hunter because, like, I'm pretty sure anytime there's a new Monster Hunter release, Japan has the most called out sick days. Like, it's like it's like everyone. It's just like a thing out there because, again, we're talking my friends.
Oh, it's very popular in Japan.
Yeah. But let me tell you something about this Capcom Creator Program. How jealous I am about you being in it, because when I was a wee lad, when the internet was fresh and new, when you could go and start an Angel Fire website and they would give you unlimited storage and unlimited bandwidth, I had a Mega Man website.
Oh my goodness.
And I was obsessed with Mega Man. Mega Man X, and Mega Man Legends existed. And I always joke my claim to fame was I was fairly well known in the Mega Man community around that time. I don't really know, but it wasn't like today. Like, there wasn't like, I don't even think Twitter didn't exist. Like, it was still when you had like website rings where like you join a ring and like you click a thing and it takes you to someone else, and you had like affiliates and you go to, but like, I spent hours
back in
like
the heyday of the internet.
Yeah, and like I spent hours, like, I would buy Mega Man, like, Japanese models, and, like, I would scan the boxes. I think that was probably the most unique thing I did, was I would scan all the boxes so you could see all the different, like, the front and the art and everything. And I did, like, gameplay guides just for, like, remembering playing, and I would do weird just write-ups about, like, characters and character profiles. And I was really big on, like, fan-submitted art. So I was like, hey, if you have any fan art, just send it to me and I'll put it up on my page, like fan music. So I remember specifically that I had like a count. Remember the counters at the bottom of pages, like to how many hits like people would visit?
Yes, hits. Oh yeah.
I remember at one point I had over 100,000 views of my page. But I feel like this was like 1999, right? So I feel like that was pretty impressive. And I remember,
pretty big.
Yeah, and this was like back at, no one really knew what they were doing on the internet really, but I remember. Gosh, right near the end, I got sub-hosted at Classic Gaming, which was a subsidiary of IGN. So, like...
Oh, yeah.
And they would basically, Classic Gaming would do is they would take, like, games, like Mega Man or Street Fighter, and they would have one specific person, like, do a site. So, like, there was a Mega Man guy, and then I knew him. Okay, here's a real deep dive. So, the Classic Gaming Mega Man X person his website was the Ultimate Mega Man X and Zero webpage. That was his website. I was on his staff as his like copy editor. I was on this. You know who else was on his staff with me? Do you know Ego Raptor? Like
oh my gosh, no!
Yeah, Ego Raptor was his spriter.
Aaron Hansen.
Yeah, it was like, and because it's funny because he's huge now, right?
Yeah, he's big into Magic too.
Yeah, oh I know. I actually not this past Vegas, but 2 Vegases ago, I ran into him and I was like, "Hey, do you?" Because he actually I don't know where I lost. It's like I don't know where that computer is, but he had like drew a picture of my character, my Mega Man person. His name was Arrow, Aero. He had a beam scythe, like instead of like a lightsaber, but it's like the Gundam Death Scythe had a beam scythe. That was his weapon. It was really he was a green, but he had like a gold and black helmet. I don't know. I was 14. I had but like he drew like a custom like picture for me because that was kind of his job on the website, and it was like, and I don't know where it was so cool. But I ran into him in Vegas. Like, hey, I was like, this is really weird, but do you remember this website? And we were kind of talking. He's like, yeah, I think so. And I couldn't. And like, I went home and I spent some time on the Wayback Machine, and I found the staff page with all of our sprites and like his sprite and so I have it. So I was kind of bummed because I was hoping he was going to be at this past Vegas thing, but I think he's actually. But I wanted to next time if I ever get to see him again, I want to show him at least I found the photo. We were on this. It was like talk about a weird it was like crazy, so wild, but yeah, like
I watched Aaron's stuff forever, like back since he was just Ego Raptor, like since all the Game Grumps and all that stuff.
Yep.
And I've seen them live a few times, and then randomly out of nowhere, I'd posted some sort of thread. I don't remember what it was, but it got a bunch of retweets, and he followed me on Twitter, and I was like, you're Ego. How do you know who I am? Yeah. So I've had that same feeling of like, whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, actually. Let me let me go grab something. Capcom sent me something, and I want to show it to you because it's very relevant. I'll be right back.
The real question is, will I just keep talking to fill space, or will I cut this and just do a cut to when she returns? Maybe I will see how far I can go talking to myself. Or maybe I won't. It's a pretty cool secret lab too. If you're just listening to this, she has a secret lab gaming chair with a red dragon. I don't recognize. It's probably from Monster Hunter, if I was to guess, because Peachy's very into Monster Hunter.
Let me see if I can fit it in here. This is something they sent me recently.
Oh, I can see it.
I'm not a Mega Man fan, but Drew, I'm going to send this to you
oh
because
my
I
God.
think it's a giant Mega Man X.
It's a Mega Man X4 cover. I know exactly. Oh my God, that's so freaking sweet.
It's all in front of my chair here. Yeah, it's a giant Mega Man X scroll.
That is. Oh my God.
Drew, I'm gonna have to get your address because I'm gonna send you this scroll.
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry. You don't know how much you've just awakened showing me that, because like, there's like, how many like. So that was the first Mega Man game, or Mega Man X, but Mega Man on the PlayStation. So there were like anime cutscenes, and like a lot of things. There, like, do you know how many videos I saw that had Linkin Park put like on top of like the cutscenes, and like there's.
I just watched so many Naruto AMVs. With,
Naruto and like Dragon Ball Z was a big one too, but like.
Oh yes.
But even just the cutscenes, because the voice acting was not very good. There's a very famous part where Iris, which is the female Reploid. In that cover is like Zero's love interest, and spoiler, she gets killed. He has to fight her. She like turns into some giant thing, and there's
do they have a lot of AMVs with like every time we touch by Cascada?
I can only imagine. Yeah. But there's a very very close where like after you beat her as Zero, like he's holding her, he's like, "What are we fighting for?" And it's like this very overly dramatic. I'm gonna cut. Will I like it? I don't even know. No one watches, so I'm not worried about YouTube strikes. It's gonna cut in right here. Okay, hopefully that was it. Hopefully I find it. Otherwise, it's gonna be really silly because it's just gonna be us going like this. But that's wild. Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, they do lots of giveaways and stuff in the Capcom creators thing,
and
a lot of them are completely random products. And I'm only really into like Monster Hunter, Okami, somewhat Resident Evil. And they messaged me and they're like, "Hey, you won the giveaway. We're gonna send you this giant Mega Man X wall scroll." And I was like, "Thanks." thanks. Like, it's very cool, but I was like, I'm not really into Mega Man, but I think it would probably have a better home with you, so I'm gonna get your address after
Oh
this
my
so
god,
you can have this.
I am so honored. It's also wild that they sent you like a Mega Man X4 wall scroll, because there's definitely like
Yeah, it's like
that's a game's old like by
yeah, like
any
this been
standard.
sitting in your guys' back room forever. Like you can tell by like the art even on it
Yeah.
that it's like it doesn't, because there's newer Mega Man stuff that's come out with like the newer art, but I was like, this is very solidly like early 2000s
Yep.
to 90s era
Yep.
art.
Yep.
Yeah.
My website had just all those pictures. Like that was the other thing. You had a picture section. It was just all that kind of like art that you could just download to have on your computer. You know.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's well. I mean, I would love to have that. I would treasure
yes.
that. God, that's
Please.
amazing.
They sent it to me, and I was like, what am I gonna do with this now? I was like, it's so big, and I was like, I've got so much stuff on my walls already.
Oh, that's super
yeah,
cool.
I would love to send this to you.
Well, thank you.
I
will. It'll immediately
have
go up in
nothing
my
to it.
office somewhere. I will find I will clear off so much space to make that thing go up.
I literally kept the box from it because I was like, I gotta send this to someone who likes Mega Man.
And lo and behold, you met Drew, the weird
Yes,
old Mega Man
perfect.
guy. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, if anyone ever is listening and watches this, if you went to www.rockmanxcity.cjb.net, that was me. That was my website. It's angelfire.com/me3/rockmanxcity. That was.
Oh my
man.
goodness.
Gosh, that was wild.
I used to go on like back when BB forums were a thing.
Oh,
I used to go on like lots of I think it was literally animeforum.com and like just anime like BB forum sites. That was I would wake up every morning before school and get on the forums and talk about anime and stuff. So that was kind of the era of the internet that I was in my version of that.
Yeah, I mean, forums were kind of like the only thing we really had to like meet,
Yeah.
to kind of communicate, right? There was no other real hub like Twitter or even I guess Discord kind of is now out, but like yeah, you had to find a forum, and you had to. It was funny too
Yeah.
because like every website had its own forum, but like it was you had to find the one that was active where everyone was hanging out at. That was always the trick.
And there were so many forum
Yeah.
sites for every type of thing. You know, there's 100 anime ones, and there's probably 100 for each individual show and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So,
Yeah.
I was big into that era. I know my my partner also has kind of the same thing where he played. He used to do like Yu-Gi-Oh YouTube
Okay.
stuff, and I don't really play Yu-Gi-Oh. I used to dabble, but he played
Scares
it a
me.
lot, and he had kind of
Yeah.
the same thing where like he had a somewhat. His was like even much smaller than your website, but he had like a somewhat of a following on Yu-Gi-Oh YouTube.
Yeah.
And every so often, sometimes somebody will come up to him and be like, "Did you like?" We'll be playing Magic, and they're like, "Did you used to make Yu-Gi-Oh content?" He's like, "Oh, I did."
That is
It's crazy how that stuff still like follows you and still comes up. You know?
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah. YouTube didn't even exist. Like there was no video. It's funny because there was no video. God, it's wild what the internet has become. Like just in a
God.
relatively,
Yeah.
I say short amount of time, but I guess it was almost a quarter of a century, 24 years ago.
Yeah. And I my background, you know, outside of cosplay and all that stuff is computer science. So
Okay.
I got to do, you know, especially when I was in college, a lot of my classes and stuff were like learning about the history of programming and computing and like basically the history of the internet. So
Yeah.
I've both experienced it from the inside and then also had to kind of relive the whole history of it through, you know, college and all that stuff. And it does feel like it happened very suddenly where like from the 90s to the 2000s, like everything was so different.
Yeah.
And now things are kind of plateauing off, you know, but
Yes.
it was a wild time back then.
Yeah. Just the exponential growth and like, just like memory, hard drive, like internet speeds. It's just it's kids today. They don't you know they will
Yes,
never
we're
experience
pioneers.
the pain. Yes, pioneers. Yes. It basically is Oregon Trail, but on the internet. That's who we were. Forging the
Yes, I used to
river.
have to chisel my forum posts into stone.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. So, Peachy, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. There is one other thing I kind of wanted to touch on because obviously, in addition to being, you know, cosplayer, Capcom creator, you are a MTG ambassador,
Yes.
which is a pretty impressive thing, I would say. I've actually had a few ambassadors on my show in the past, and I think the ambassador program initially was met with some unfair aggression.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to kind of ask your opinion, just whatever you're as an ambassador. It's almost been a year now. I feel like we're kind of getting
Yeah.
okay.
We're coming up on year 2 now.
Okay. Just what's your thoughts on like what it's been like for you being an ambassador, and like what you like about the program, and like what you're looking maybe to hope to do with it kind of in the future. If it's kind of a lot to throw on the spot, but just just kind of your thoughts on what it's been like being an ambassador, and like how it's affected your day to day, I guess.
Yeah. When it started, it definitely had kind of a rocky start, both from the inside and from people who weren't in the program. Because, for those of us that were added to the program, there were a lot of us of like, what does this mean for us? What are we doing? What's the plan here? And it was all, it was a brand new program, so we were kind of, the pioneers of this group, of figuring out what this group will mean in the future.
Yeah.
And also from the outside, for people who were not in the ambassador group, there was a lot of like, what does that mean? Yeah. My favorite creators just said, I'm an ambassador. Do you work for Wizards now? What does that mean? Is your content going to change? Do they control your posts and all this stuff? And it's, it's much more hands-off than all of that. It's very like, here's a box of cards, make a post. Cool.
Yeah.
It's very low key.
Yeah.
I promise we're not a shadowy cabal of rule makers or anything. But it's been a really, really fun opportunity to be able to connect with like other Magic creators in the space. I've got to meet like lots and lots of other really cool people, other cosplayers, other people who do like deck techs and videos. I've got to collab with other people in the program. I've done like I was on MTG Nerd Girl's thing for a couple of her episodes too, and Veggie Wagon is in there too. So it's been really fun. It has had some growing pains along the way, because for a lot of us in the program, it was difficult for us to really understand like what are the expectations for this program, and it was kind of unclear, and things changed a lot because it was the first year.
Yeah.
But overall, it's been really, really fun. I've gotten a lot more Magic product than I ever would have been able to buy by being in the program, and it's great. And that enables me to give a bunch of stuff away, and like do giveaways on Twitter, and like help people out who are building decks that I know, and be like, here's some stuff I got. Like actually, I had I met a girl here locally who was like, hey, I'm kind of interested in playing Magic, and we started like meeting up, and like I was teaching her Magic. We have like a whole little group going. And I was like, oh, you're liking Magic, you're liking Commander, and I gave her one of like the Commander Masters precons.
Oh wow!
Like, here's a Commander Masters precon, here's a playmat, some other stuff that they had sent me, and I was like, there you go, you have a starting, you have a deck, you're way into Magic now. And she was super happy, and like she's going to Magic like 3 days a week now. Like she's a monster.
A monster.
Yeah, but the program has definitely had a bit of a couple of bumps here and there, but I think that going forward, it's smoothing out a lot. We've kind of all aligned on like, here's what we're doing, here's what's expected of us, and all that. So it's been really cool also to have like, it's a little bit surreal to be like, to go from being like some nerd who plays Magic at the local LGS to being in direct contact with people at Wizards of the Coast who are like, hey, we want to know how you guys feel about thing, give us feedback on this set. And I'm like, who the hell am I to be telling you guys this? But it's really, really cool. It's very wild to be in a position where like, sorry, my cats are fighting.
Oh, it's okay.
I can hear them in the other room. They're sweet boys, but they every so often they get a little tiff.
Makes sense.
Cats. Yeah, the ambassador program's been super fun. It's been a good learning and growing experience, and I'm very thankful for being able to like have this close connection with other Magic creators and all that. And so I'm hoping that when they move to expanding the program, we'll get to have even more people in it. Yeah, it's been pretty fun.
That's good. And I think as a kind of like an outsider, I think they chose a lot of people who are very good representatives of the game. Right. And honestly, just listening to you right now, the fact that you just gave a Commander Masters precon to this new player. Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm like, oh well, that's why they chose you, because you just. Not like that just not even like, yeah, here's a precon. Like I have all these extra precons. Like I'm not gonna, because especially
I'm not gonna go play 12 like different precons.
but even like because like the Commander Master precons are like they're not inexpensive, right? They're a little pricey, and for you just to be like, oh, here's a strong, powerful, you know what I mean? Like
yeah, like you have a kit now where you can go to Commander Night and like learn more about the game and all that stuff. That's kind of the thought that I had too when I did it. Is I was like, this is like the exact scenario of being an ambassador to a game.
Yes.
That like my involvement with Magic and having Magic as something to do and the community around it has like meant a lot to me. And I'm like, that's really cool that I am now in a place where I can give that to someone else. Because the girl who I'd met, she here in Seattle, everybody's laid off from tech jobs basically, and she'd been laid off for like a year.
Oh, wow.
She was like, oh, I'm kind of broke, like I can't really afford to get into Magic. She's like, if you have a loaner deck though, I'd love to borrow one so I can play with you guys. So like her birthday was recently, and I was like, here's I gave her my they gave us these little drawstring bags at Vegas for creators. I gave her that, and like it was the Fairies precon, and like a mat that I got at some event that I had like 2 of. And gave her a little kit, and like now we get to play all the time, and it's super cool to be in this position where like I definitely am not in a position where I can go buy 100 precons and give them out to people, but it's cool to just be like, I just have this in my house, I can just give it to somebody,
Exactly. That's I think just that I like to talk about community a lot on like this show. Like for me, like I this is for me an exercise in highlighting positive community members, and I think that's the sort of thing like the game needs to continue to be successful. Is people who can go out and are in positions to be like, well, here's a deck. Like that's I think what being an ambassador is about. And I think you are a upstanding Magic community members, and I'm glad you're an ambassador, and I think you represent the game very well. So that's very nice to hear. And I'm glad.
I try my best.
That's all we can ask for. Like it's not. It's a card game, right? Like that you know what I mean? Like what?
At the end of the day.
So
I am also glad to see that as far as the ambassador program, something that I did like they did also is I would have felt a little bit slighted if it was like, here's our ambassadors. It's like the 10 people with 1 million followers. There you go. Yeah. I would have felt a little bit bad about that. So I'm very, very thankful that like, special attention was paid to get creators of all sizes who do like all different, have different sizes of followings, who do different things. There's like a few cosplayers. There's a few people who do YouTube deck techs and people who do, there's some people there who do like custom music for Magic and that kind of thing. Yeah. So it's really cool to see like that kind of attention being given to the selection for people in there, because oftentimes it usually just turns into like, who are the biggest people? Here you go. Here's a prize, and that sucks.
I mean, I consider myself pretty plugged into the community in terms of like who's in it and whatever. And there are ambassadors who I had never heard of before, and not as a slight, but like there's just sometimes different mediums that I don't pursue as much. Like and like and I think highlighting some of those creators again that weren't just like the top 10 most viewed people or whatever. I think that was very smart. I think it was a very good way to approach the program because it's a Magic is a very broad game, so you want to really reach out to a broad audience. So
absolutely.
So again, like I'm glad things have kind of settled down. It seems like there's been a groove that's been found with anything, and I'm glad you are doing well. And again, I do think you are very well-positioned representative of the game. So I'm glad to see you continue to succeed in those aspects. So
thank you.
So Peachy, again, thank you so much. I can't believe how long we've been talking. It's been flying by. So I don't take up too much time. So kind of want to wrap things up a little bit. So what I do with all my guests, when I have them come on, I have them pick a charity that we do a small donation to. I think it's a nice thing to do, so I like to do it. And you've chosen Doctors Without Borders, so I will be going ahead and make a small donation to them as a contribution just for having you on. Additionally, what I like to do is I'm gonna pop up like a community board here, so I'm gonna do the thing like that. Peachy Pop. Yeah, Pop. I like to talk about community a lot. So what I like to do with everyone I have on my show is to be able to kind of support you even after the show's over. I'm actually going to sign up to your coffee.
Ooh.
So that way, even after we're kind of done here, I can kind of, it's not a huge sort of thing, but I can kind of keep supporting you in your endeavors in a small way, as long as I can.
Yeah,
but
awesome.
just as
I do appreciate that.
yeah, I mean, as someone who's addicted to coffee, I mean, obviously you could do whatever, with the whatever, but like,
I live in Seattle. I'm
Oh, yeah.
never more than 10 feet away from coffee here.
Yeah. But I just like to, I believe in community. I believe in everyone I have on. I do think are very good representatives of the community. So it's just a small way I can kind of continue to support you as you
Thank you.
build giant Monster Hunter armor mechs and
Yes.
suits and this and that. So
I will either turn it into coffee or armor, and either way, fantastic.
There we go. Yeah, that's all. I just want to see more armors. Let's just see those armors.
Oh,
more armors,
absolutely. So. Yeah, I will. A bit of a, not a teaser, but I've been posting about it. But I am working on new Fallout stuff for MagicCon Chicago, so I'm in the armor mines once again.
The show is still like a month and a half away. I already have FOMO because I'm not gonna be able to go. So I'm just like, oh gosh,
yeah.
It's gonna have so much fun. Though it sounds like it's gonna be
more.
There will be. I mean, there's always another con, and it's gonna be freezing ass cold. So I'm gonna be.
It is.
That's the one thing. I'm down. I'm out here in Southern California in my 68 degree. I had to wear a sweater today. I was like,
I'm from Michigan, so I'm like, I feel like I'm a wimp when I'm outside here and it's like 50. I'm like, it's a little breezy. Or it's like 37 outside. I'm like, it's pretty warm today, actually.
That's funny. So again, Peachy, thank you so much for coming on. I will link all of your socials down below, so you can find Peachy on. I think I got you on Twitter, Instagram. I do believe I have it written down somewhere. We'll get all those. So yeah, find Peachy. Check out her stuff. If you liked this show, feel free to subscribe. I'm trying to take a more proactive and less awkward approach. I enjoy doing this. I like people who like seeing me do this, maybe. So subscribe. I don't care about the bell thing. I don't know I don't even know how that works. You can whatever. If you're interested, you like what you see here, feel free to subscribe. I'll keep doing episodes, having people on and talking Magic and cosplay and Mega Man. I need to find a Mega Man person now. Let me do a Mega Man podcast. I'm ready for that. So
you would be a subject matter expert.
I can talk shop up and through, Mega Man through Mega Man, Rockman and Mega Man and Bass, which is kind of like Mega Man 9, but not really. And then Mega Man X, I can go probably up until Mega Man X6. I didn't play the transition to the 3D games.
I have a question for you on that really quick.
Okay, let's
on Mega Man.
Okay.
I have never played a single Mega Man game. I know.
Oh my gosh.
If I could only play one Mega Man game, what is the one you would recommend to me personally to play?
Okay.
I know it's a big question for a series that it's hard for me to.
Okay.
Games I love.
Are we talking Mega Man or Mega Man X? Because there's a little bit of a distinction.
Anything in the Mega Man series anything in Mega Man that you think that would be the one game, if I only ever can play one Mega Man game, of Mega Man of anything of the sort.
Probably, there's only one. I'd probably say Mega Man X. I think the first Mega Man X game for a lot of people is all the elements are there for tight gameplay. The story's really good. X2 is my favorite, but I think X is there's a lot of cool stuff and it's really good. If you want to split it between Mega Man X and Mega Man, I actually love Mega Man 7. That's probably my
I feel like I've heard good things about that one.
Yes, Mega Man 7.
I'm not super tuned into it, but
Mega Man 7 was the Super Nintendo one. That one's really cool because the story's pretty fun. That's the introduction of Bass, which is a pretty cool character. There's a lot of cool secrets in that game, in terms of power-ups and weapons and items. So that I think is really fun, finding all this little extra bonus upgrades and stuff you can get. So if there's just one Mega Man X, but if you do Mega Man and Mega Man X separately, I would also say Mega Man 7 as a mainline Mega Man game.
Great, yeah.
So
Maybe I'll check out Mega Man and you can check out Fallout.
there we go. Perfect. There's our homework.
Compare notes.
Compare notes. Perfect. Awesome. All right. Again, so Peachy, thank you so much again. Everyone, if you're listening still to this point, thanks. Maybe, I'm impressed, really. But, yeah, find Peachy everywhere. Feel free to find me on Twitter. I'll have all my socials linked below. Show and Tell, the number 2U everywhere. It's pretty straightforward. And Peachy, so much for coming on, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.